Hey guys, so today I'm just going to show you how to set up your touch controllers and make a simple little game where you have a shotgun in your hand, and when you press the trigger, it plays a sound, and if you hit a cube, it destroys the cube. So I'm just going to show you real fast how this actually works. So put it on the headset, and you can see I have the shotgun mapped to my right hand, and if I press the trigger, I hear the sound, and I shoot. And if I hit the cube, boom, disappears. So this is going to take just a few minutes, and you're just going to need a few things to get started. So I'm going to create a new scene. So I want you guys to create a new project, make an empty scene, save it and call it play. Go ahead and delete the main camera because you won't be needing that. And let's get started. So the first thing, I've already downloaded it, but you're going to need the Oculus Utilities. And the way you're going to get that is if you go to the Oculus website and you go to the download section, you'll find Oculus Utilities for Unity 5. So that'll be, if you go to the download section, engine integration, it'll be this first one right here. So you just agree, hit download, unzip, and double click on the Unity package inside of it, and you'll have all these assets as well. So once you've done that, I want you to go to the prefabs folder inside the project and drag in the OVR camera rig. So if you guys are familiar with the Vive and SteamVR, this is super similar. You just drag this camera rig in, you have access to the controllers, the head, all the positions, everything like that. So I mean, we can take a quick look and you can see left eye, center eye, tracker, left hand, right hand. So the next thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need our shotgun model and the actual sound that we want to play when we shoot. So I've already downloaded them from the asset store, so I chose this Shotgun 2.0 by Adequate. It's free. Same thing with the Action SFX vocal kit, also free. I just picked one sound out of there. So go ahead, if you want to pause the video, click on these two packages. You can search them in the asset store, download and import them. And once you've done that, we're just going to take a look at this shotgun. So it comes in as a prefab. And what we're going to do is we're going to drag this prefab as a child of the right-hand anchor. And as you can see, if we look at the right-hand anchor, you can see that the Z, or the blue axis, is facing right, and the shotgun is facing left. And it's also pretty big. So if we were to press play and look at it in our headset, we would see that the shotgun was way too big and unwieldy for us to handle. So to fix that, what we're going to do is we're going to go down to the nested object, the default one, and we're going to change the scale to 0.1, 0.1, 0.1, and we're going to change the Y rotation to 90. And once we do that, you can actually, I guess I'll just show you an example. If we do that, you can see that the gun is now a little bit better as far as scale goes, and it's now mapped correctly to our controller. So now that we've done that, let's set up our scene a little bit. I'm going to make a 3D object plane. And one thing I always like to do with anything like this is I create a material and I give it a black albedo color. So I would do that by right-clicking, create material, and then making sure the color was black. And that's just to give this a little contrast. It makes it easier for our objects as well because we can create some primitives and leave them white, and we'll still be able to see them. So let's go ahead and create a cube. And what I'm doing right now is I'm control clicking, and that's to move it a unit at a time, which is super useful if you want to keep things in line. It's similar to using shift in Photoshop. And then I'm going to hit control D to duplicate, control click to move them out. And I'm just going to make a few of these. Oops. You can make as many as you like. You don't have to make them cubes. They can be another asset from the asset store, anything at all. These are just examples to show you what's going on. So once I've done that, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create an empty game object, and I'm going to call it the input manager. So the cool thing about the OVR camera rig and the Oculus SDK is that you don't need references to the controllers to use them. What does that mean? It means you don't have to have your scripts inside the actual OVR camera rig. You can actually have them in any game object you want, which is kind of nice, and it's a good departure from how SteamVR does it. And the way they did that was they used singletons and some static classes. So what I'm going to do is I've already made the script. I called it controller input. And so I'm just going to drag it onto the input manager. And so what you're going to do then is right click, create C# script, and call it controller input. And then open up Visual Studio, and we'll take a look at the code itself. So the code's pretty simple. We're declaring an audio clip, an audio source, a transform value, And then in our start method, we are getting a reference to our audio source, and we're loading the audio source with the clip that we've chosen. Inside of our update loop, we get a call to ovr input.get, and we actually, so I'm just going to change this, and we're actually checking to see if the secondary hand trigger is pressed down. So if you watched the last video on touch input, you should be familiar with the terminology, and if not, the secondary hand trigger maps to the right hand index trigger. So we're just going to check for that, and then if we pressed it, then we're going to play our shotgun sound, and we're also going to call a method called Raycast Gun. So Raycast Gun, all it does is we declare a raycast hit, and we just check and see if we've hit a cube, and if we have, we destroy the cube. And as you can see here, we use this thing called compare tag. And so compare tag makes it really easy to do these checks. This is not feasible if you have hundreds of game objects or anything like that. You wouldn't want to change each and everyone's tag, but quick and dirty, and it's going to be super simple to implement. So now that you've done that, take a moment. I'm going to zoom in here in case you guys can't see. Let's go back to our project, and let's take a look at these cubes. So what we want to do is we want to click 1, go to the inspector view on the right, and see how it says untagged? Click that, click add tag, and you're going to see tag 0, and you're going to change that to cube and hit save. Oop. And then next you're going to shift select all of your cubes or whatever objects you have and change their tag to cube. Now that you've done that, the next thing we need to do, so if we look at our script here, it's saying in the start method, it calls a get component audio source, right? But if we look at our object, there's no audio source on the object. So we have to add component right here in the inspector, audio source. And then what we're going to want to do is we're going to find the actual clip itself. So in this case, I'm going to click the gunfire clip from the Action SFX vocals package. And I'm going to click back on my input manager and drag this gunfire to the clip itself. So now that that reference is set, the only one we need is the gun barrel transform. So remember, we're using the gun barrel transform in our raycast. So when we do a raycast, which is basically just saying to Unity, draw a line from the position of our gun barrel to its forward into its forward direction, we're going to need a reference to the actual position itself. So let's click over here and let's drag this Marma 3 right here. And now Unity is going to know where to raycast from. Whereas before, it would have just raycasted from this input manager, which is static and is not going to move in the scene. Whereas this right hand anchor is going to move with our actual hand itself. So once we've done that, that's pretty much it. We can just hit save, press play. And if we look at our hand, we can see, boom. Boom, boom, gun works. So there you go, a quick 5-minute project just to get you started with the Oculus SDK. I'll be releasing a few more quick tidbits on how to do a couple of different things that I think are going to be pretty useful. But if you guys have any comments, suggestions, feel free to leave them, and I will definitely take heed. Thank you.